Hello, everybody, and welcome to Footy Chat, episode number 14. Just like last week, episode 13, it is just Lorenzo and Josh in the studio. Hello, Josh, how are you?
Hello, good to be back.
I know.
Good week.
What football team do you support again, Josh? I'm just trying to work it out. I'm seeing a lot of...
And this man too.
I'm seeing a lot of navy, blue and white. You've got the inferior de Koning there on the table. Yes, he's the inferior de Koning.
You do know that he had 22 in a goal, right?
I was fully aware that he sometimes has good performances. I'm not saying he's a bad footballer. I'm just saying he's got a brother who's also very good. Anyway,
made an impulse purchase after our victory. I'm like, you know what? Let's just do it.
No guarantee he's still with that team and that logo. He's in that badge he's with there in a few months' time. But we're not here to talk trade rumors. That might be other podcasts. That's not us. Footy Chat is all about reviewing the week that was. And talking from a few different angles. We always start with our photo of the week, and this one from Michael Wilson, again coming in clutch for us. I've chosen this one because there's several different things in this photo. What I think makes this a great photo is there's several different things really that catches my eye. So this is from before the King's birthday match between Melbourne and Collingwood. So you've got Neil Danaher here, obviously, the central focus of the day and the central focus of the photo. But what I like the players on either side, Melbourne and Collingwood, making that sort of guard of honour thing. And then what is something that I don't think we talk about much when it comes to this King's birthday match, but it's always my favourite. Every single person, especially in the first tier with those beanies, it's just this consistent look at that particular shade. It's quite literally a sea of blue.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Well, it was 80-something thousand there.
It was just under. It was about 70. I think it was closer to 77. I think it was just under 80.
Incredible. It's just sea of blue beanies everywhere. It's great. It's such a nice touch. It really is.
It is. I think this photo, more than anyone else that happened on this particular day, sort of captured everything. The crowd getting involved, the players recognising this great Australian in Neil Danaher, the current Australian of the year, who has been at the centre of this Fight MND cause. So Big Freeze 11, a big success this week, and this photo from Michael Wilson is our pick of the week. I think really shows so many different elements that make this day so important, from what Danaher's been through, the teams that have gone involved, and the lay people, the fans getting involved as well, wearing those beanies. It's always, whenever they go to that shot of the crowd, it just looks awesome with all those people, particularly in that first tier. That occurred on Monday. We'll get to the game itself a little later, but this is where we go into our review of the round, just going through game by game what happened and our thoughts. And we start on Thursday night, where Hawthorn, when they needed to really turn things around, they did, with a 22-point victory over the Bulldogs. A strong performance to kick off the round on that Thursday night under the roof of Marvel. Good, we'll even have Josh has even been kind enough to add the matches itself here. Even though the order of which, have you put this in the...
Yeah, so it goes down. So.
Oh, yeah, I see. I see what you've done.
Yeah, that's not the way I could put it. So.
You could have gone across, and that would have actually made more sense. You should have had... Anyway, I'll just leave it on this slide. Yeah, you haven't quite done what I expected you to do there, Josh. Anyway, strong performance from Hawthorn, and much needed after their last few weeks have been a bit poor.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that was a much needed from... You'd think Doggies were probably coming in favourite, but they needed a big win. We're in the best form, and they got it done by 22 points. I think Newcombe had 27. He was very, very good for him.
Yes. On Friday night, the Adelaide Crows defeated the Brisbane Lions by 5 points in the match that I said would be close and was. Rain certainly affected it particularly early. It wasn't particularly high scoring, but this was a game of football that was enjoyable. Yep. It was a fun watch. It was a tense game, and the Brisbane Lions, they just kicked themselves out of it, particularly in that last quarter. They could have won this game running away, and they haven't won it at all.
15 behinds. We say bad kicking is bad football so many times, and they're on the wall of shame, that's for sure. But yeah, that had so many chances at the back end of that last quarter for sure, and just could not get it done. Not they had.
I reckon
8 behinds in the last quarter.
Yeah,
8 behinds.
And those chances weren't. I mean, perhaps they weren't all guarantees. He absolutely 100% should have kicked it every single time.
Sure.
But they were all very makeable. They were all very doable. And yeah, it was. As this computer again is just causing me so much havoc. This particular touchscreen. Yeah, it was 30 minutes to go when Lachie Neale ran in and missed. That was when I went, okay, I don't think they're going to win this game. Because when he was missing in that situation, you realised, okay, they've got real tight here, and they're not going to be able to to bounce back. Also, credit to Adelaide, who started with 6 behinds in that first quarter and finished 10-8. So strong kicking at the back end helped them when we saw 8 behinds at the hands of. So they each had their back quarters kicking wise or letdowns at the start and the end of the match, but the Brisbane one proves more costly in the end as they go down by 5 points in a fun match, as this computer just keeps annoying me. Right, on Saturday, have we seen a worse string of matches for a day?
Wow.
Maybe, but you got to go back a long way. Starting with Richmond 36, losing to Sydney 80. They were going to start with Richmond and then ran out of steam as Sydney ran over the top of them to win by 44. Then on Saturday twilight, the game I was obviously most interested in the round, my mighty Geelong Cats getting the job done by 24 points over a Gold Coast Suns team who was never going to win if they were going to wear that pink jumper down at the Cattery. And then we had, to finish up that Saturday out there in Canberra, 50-66, the Port Power getting over the line there. But just back to Geelong, a relatively strong performance. And Max Holmes again, he's going to be an All-Australian surely, 40 disposals.
Yep.
A couple of behinds in there, so missed a couple of chances in front of goal. But other than that, had a very strong Saturday.
Well, I think with Bailey Smith's absence, he definitely needed to step up, and he sure did in front of a very good crowd at GMHBA Stadium.
It was, in spite of the conditions, which weren't
too
massively
pleasing.
helpful. They were. It was still a pretty good standout crowd. Grime Eyes as well with the 26 disposals looked good and important again. I said at the time how important he was when he was out for injury in that match, which Carlton ended up winning by 3 goals. And I said he almost had a 3-goal. He almost had it. That was almost the 3 goals was almost that difference. The thing that decided the game was Grime Eyes just not being there. He's just so important to this team.
Absolutely.
Top shooter with 23 disposals. Manor, Atkins, O'Connor also playing their part. So overall, a pretty strong performance from Geelong. Not the most amazing given the circumstances, but very happy with obviously the results. Even though guys like Dangerfield and Cameron didn't have much of the ball at all, Shannon Neal as well, even Tyson Stengel only had the 11 touches. So it was really up to Max Holmes to carry the way and Grime Eyes as well, Tom Stewart, to sort of really ensure that Geelong would get over the line in this particular match. And they did so by 24 points, 9-7 to 5-7 there at the Cattery. Still not sure where GWS is at the moment. I still think that they're their best. They're a premiership contender, but every second week it's a strong performance followed by dropping a game which they really should have won. And they should have won this one on paper against Port Adelaide at Canberra. Neither team was particularly strong. You wouldn't want to. Now that when you think of the Ken Hinkley era, Port Adelaide, you won't be thinking of that match really at all. It was sort of a match that happened there. And then we get to, now if you thought those were bad, you were particularly inspired by Saturday. I hope you, like me, was more interested in the netball that was happening. I was at a netball game, I mentioned that in the Dust podcast as well, than what was happening out in Bunbury. Now, the good people of Bunbury were getting a football game. North Melbourne have signed a deal with Western Australian government so that they'll play a couple of games there against the WA teams. But it didn't start particularly well. What was it at half time? Let me remind myself. Something like 3 to 1-8.
Oh, gross.
I said this had Wooden Spoon Bowl written all over it last week, and it looked like it in the first half.
But they're both bottom 4 sides for a reason, so there you go. It wasn't the most prettiest game one will ever see or listen to.
It got a little bit better. It got a little bit better in the second half. It sort of picked up for
10-point victory.
Yeah, so 10 points in the end for North Melbourne. The big elephant in the room is what West Coast score was, which was the worst goal kicking of the weekend, but we'll get to that later. And then Carlton and Essendon. I didn't watch heaps of this game, I must admit. Carlton won it, though from what I saw wasn't particularly inspiring at any particular point. They seemed to get the jump early, and that was basically the difference between them winning and potentially losing. Is that fair,
Pretty
Josh?
much
You
spot on.
were at the game,
I was at the game, absolutely. So, yeah, it was that first quarter that was really, really good, I think. Let me go back to the stats.
Carlton have one strong quarter, and
we did.
That gets you hype up for the rest of the season.
Pretty much. So that's what we did. Let me have a look whilst we talk about that. Yeah, so we had, I think it was like a 5-goal first term, and then from there we just really sort of tapered down. Essendon sort of was coming back, but not immensely, and then we just found a way to sort of scrap over at the end, which is what we usually do. Oh, here we go. Yeah, 6-1 in the first quarter, 2 goals in the second, 1 goal in the third, and then two goals in the last. So wasn't great. Essendon just kept coming back at the end, had a massive 3-goal one last quarter, but we just held on. That back six was very good. Jack Silvani being included again after injury was fantastic. He's such a valuable asset to that back six. Wiedering again was exceptional. My big call, Sammy Walsh got his 30s. I said in the big call, he was fantastic. Absolutely sensational.
Much needed.
Yeah, along with Hewitt, who had 29, Akers 29. He had a great game. Doherty was very good coming off some VFL form, 26 there. Chera was also good, but very solid from across the board there, but just got over the line. Pretty much how it was.
Absolutely. So 8-point margin there for Carlton. And then in what was clearly the best game of the round by some distance, Collingwood getting over the line by just the 1 point. Now, even though they haven't won this game, Melbourne, and so they actually haven't beaten Collingwood.
No.
I think they've shown you the blueprint of how you might be able to do it. Without getting into too much technical jargon, I won't be Adam Simpson or David King on this podcast, so I never will be. But
very analytical.
This is not an analytical segment in any way, but they were physical. They were attentive right from the start with what was going on. I think the tag on Nick Dacos, well, it worked to an extent. Well. It wasn't. He wasn't completely eradicated. You never can be. But overall, 19 disposals. So that's probably. Oh, sorry, 18 disposals. No, it was 19. It was 19. I was looking at 19 and a goal. So it ended up being his brother Josh Dacos who had the most touches with 34. He had a very strong performance. So I don't understand. It's something about the tag. It just seems to work every time, but I don't understand why more teams employ it in these games. I don't know if it's a stupid spirit of the game, the man-cat sort of thing where it's perfectly legal. There's all good reasons to do it, but you're worried about, well, what will people think if we do it? Well, what happens if you win? If you win the game, this is in the Volcano this week, but yeah, so I think that sort of physicality, they need to be a little bit cleaner in front of goal. 10-11 wasn't quite able to do it. And you still need to beat Collingwood at their own game, which is the last 2-3 minutes where they are clearly the best and have trained for just about every situation, so nothing's really that novel for them. But I think they've shown the blueprint of how you will be able to beat Collingwood coming into the finals. And if Melbourne can do it, a team that's probably not really top 8 material at the moment, so maybe teams right up there in the 8 can learn from Melbourne, who very nearly beat Collingwood. And if you if you get it right, they gave away lots. Giving away lots of free kicks wasn't even. I don't even think that was a net negative from a Melbourne point of view, because it showed you that the Demons were going to be on top of the Magpies all day, and they needed to be, and they were. They just weren't clinical enough in front of goal, and Collingwood is still great in the last 2-3 minutes of a match. But I think teams can look at this and go, all right, what worked, what didn't work, and can we just do the last couple of things that Melbourne weren't quite able to do right, mainly Max Gawn kicking it straight to an opposition or hand passing to 4 guys there when he could have easily waited for 5-10 seconds in the back pocket.
What do we make of the whole Gawn May debacle? I guess is it a debacle, or is it just a bit of a? I come back
to what I said sort of last week, where with that sort of any publicity is good publicity, sort of thinking about it. It shows that there's passion. It shows that I don't think it was anything particularly maliceful on either party's regard. Stephen May or Max Gawn were talking about that incident right after Gawn effectively ended the game because he kicked it straight to, was it Hoskin Elliott or someone like that?
I think so.
So no, I didn't have any particular issues with what happened at the end of that game from a Melbourne point of view, and I think there are many positives to take away from Melbourne. I think many positives to take away for the rest of the teams who will play Collingwood later in the year, particularly in August and September when the heavy grinding has to occur. I think they've shown a blueprint, that sort of physicality and really staying on top of the Magpies all day is the way you're going to beat them, plus a bit more analytical stuff, which isn't me.
Absolutely. Well said.
We've got that was the scores. We've got Woodsy hasn't gone through the horse race this week, so we won't really spend too much time on it, and we'll get into back kicking bad football pretty quickly. One thing I will get to, I think it's the 1200 metre mark where we're
12 into 13.
Where we were. We're going to 12 into 13. We might do a couple of things next week, but you can imagine Collingwood still strongly out in front, as are the Geelong Football Club after our win there last week. Adelaide as well, staying up there as well. So basically all those teams in that front part have stayed there. Brisbane, it was only a 5-point margin, so it wasn't too far back. GWS might drift back a little bit, as might the Suns. Hawks probably get a little bit closer now. Fremantle will stay where they are because they didn't win. Maybe we see a bit more movement from Carlton as they begin to maybe they'll try and do what Brisbane did last year. I don't think they'll be successful, but coming from a long way back and really be contending there towards the end.
Well,
but
we've got that soft fixture. We've got West Coast and North next week, so we could be seeing over here in a fortnight's time. We don't know. I know you're...
No team should ever be allowed, AFL, no team should ever be allowed to play the bottom two teams for the previous year in back-to-back weeks, ever.
Exactly.
It should never happen.
That is a fixturing flaw right there. I couldn't believe it. I was looking through going, okay, if we can win. And I'm like, hang on, we're playing North Melbourne and West Coast. I don't know if it's the same order or not, but we're playing them both within a fortnight, like 8 weeks apart or something? It's ridiculous. But
I said to you off air before we even came into the studio that if Carlton do make finals, it'll be pretty much the same as last year where you bomb out away from home. Unless you get lucky and have to play Geelong at the MCG. So unless you get lucky with what is in effect a home final. If you get an MCG final, you might be a chance. Yep. Otherwise, Otherwise, I don't think you're much hope, even if you do make the 8, which I think is
very unlikely.
I still think it's possible. I wouldn't be completely surprised, but I'm still putting that red X on the who can and can't win the flag. But we do have back kicking is bad football because that never goes away. I didn't even bother to try with the transitions, but as you will see, one still works in the West Coast Eagles. There they go. There they come in to join Richmond and Brisbane this week because you just need to look at the goals and behinds. 8-15 Brisbane, not good, especially last quarter, and you were doing well 8-7 at 3/4 time. But the thing, as we mentioned already, Adelaide were probably looking like they might be on this wall, and then turned it around, and then Brisbane in bad moments. It was just not good, and that means
big
that
time plays.
They were one of the teams that hadn't been on the wall yet, and now they're there. 4-12 from Richmond certainly didn't help their chances. They were never going to be in this game particularly, but it could have helped the margin a bit more respectable. And then, as part of the worst game ever played at Bunbury, 6-16 from the Eagles. They could have easily wrapped that game up much earlier, and instead they see... late flourish from the Kangaroos to get a rare win for North Melbourne. So North fans would be celebrating the fact that they just had a win out there in Bunbury. So if we go to our
hopefully
portrait gallery of things, this was all Josh, so hopefully it's not too bad. Eagles, yes, Tigers and Brisbane.
Looks all right.
And if we go to the next one, we can see the spot where Brisbane were is now gone. So just the Dockers. So it was the Saints here as well. So it's now just the Dockers, Cats and Dogs that are left, who have not been on the wall yet, and hopefully from a Geelong perspective that will just continue in the weeks that come. 9-7 last week, so no dramas. Freo didn't play, and 8-11 from the Bulldogs. Could have made it, but that wasn't too bad, even though they lost by 22 points. So they stay in there for the moment. But the Bulldogs feel they're most likely, if any of these teams, to potentially, even though, again, Fremantle, yeah, you never know. They're a bit up and down.
That's right.
Geelong feel the least likely at the moment. I'm just hoping if Geelong can be all there by themselves at one point, that would be sensational.
Time
right, where are we? Oh, yes, right.
Volcano.
What
is it this week? I have no idea at all.
This week,
what is it?
I am complaining
about
people on social media. That's why I love to complain at these types of people because they're not interesting
keyboard
people.
Warriors.
They're keyboard warriors. You know what? I'm sure people will be familiar if you've been involved in life. You will have heard the fable of the boy who cried wolf, right? The guy, the kid who does all these false alarms, and then when he needs help, nobody goes to him, right?
Correct.
I reckon most social media followers of football, I call them the boy who cried ball. That probably peaked badly. Apologies, everyone. We don't have a producer. I call them the boy who cried ball because every single time there is a close game, Josh, every single time, you will inevitably see the first thing on Twitter, the first thing on Instagram will be how much you pay the umpires. And if this is every close game, I'm sorry, it's none of these games. You maybe you have a point sometimes, very rarely. I just don't want to see that every single time your team loses in a close game, it just can't be, the umpires were terrible. No, maybe your team wasn't particularly good.
That's true.
Right, I came in here after the. I love it when I came in here. We were doing a dance podcast right after Carlton beat Geelong, and I said to you, "There's one reason why we lost that game," and you actually said, "Is it the umpires?" I'm not like that, Josh. I'll never be like that. Were the umpires good in that particular game? Probably not. But you're going to have ups and downs, and it's not a thing an individual team can control. What you can control is not kicking 8-15, 6-16, 10-11. 8-11, 4-12. Like there are more things in a team's control, and there's more things that fans should be focusing on than the umpiring. Every single close game. Like I've almost stopped checking social media on Saturdays and Sundays because I just know every single close game it's going to be how much was. It's annoying. It is the boy who cried ball because it's every single time.
The boy who cried ball.
If it's every single game, it's none of these games. So maybe very rarely, on occasion, maybe you might be semi-right. But in most occasions, I think you're wrong, and I think you need to learn the rule book. Fair income. Alrighty, that's my volcano this week. Stop being those who cry ball. I may or may not put that up on the website as an article. That's what I wanted to with these volcano things, but I had a bunch of assignments and other projects on, which sort of got in the way, which is finally done on the assignment sort of thing. Right, this week as a Radel, I've sort of combined Radel Hate and the history lesson in terms of they're going to be distinct, but I've got a couple of different things. I just saw before we went on air, Josh, that this year's Hall of Fame class
of 2025
has been announced, and I am rating this. This is absolutely fantastic. It's very, very diverse names throughout the history of football and in various states, so I am very happy to see this. Firstly, this is a photo from Michael Wilson. Again, Reward Hodge, Phillips, Lyon, and Pearce are the sort of
Great
recent
names.
living players who will be inducted this year. But if you look at some of the other names that have been mentioned, the big one for me, and very much overdue, Ken Farmer, who was a player throughout the 20s, 30s, and 40s in South Australia, who kicked, I think it was more than 1,400 goals over the course of his career. It was more than Tony Lockett. He was an insane player and dominated that period. He led the SNFL goal kicking from 1930 to 1940. That's 11 years of being the number one guy in goal kicking. He played for the North Adelaide Roosters. Fantastic name, fantastic song
Great
as well. The red and white with the red jumper with the white V.
The Roosters.
Champion Rooster, and he's going to be now inducted as a legend. So he was already in the Hall of Fame. He joined the Hall of Fame in 1998. That was the third year of its existence, and now he's going to be a much inducted legend now. There's so many of these players from the past which really deserved to be in there. I'm thinking Albert Thurgood, the Eston legend from the VFA era, as it really should be a legend, given Thurgood was probably the best player in the first 40, 50 years of the sport's history. Now, I would love to tell you a bit more, but I'm struggling, as always, with this computer. Pearce already mentioned. Phillips already mentioned. I won't go over them too much because you should be relatively familiar with someone like Luke Hodge and Nick Riewoldt. I think people know about them.
You'd hope so.
George Owens was a Sandover medalist as a ruckman, 5-time Waffle Grand Final umpire. So he was a legend in Western Australia in the 1910s, 20s and 30s. John Leedman was one of the best Tasmanian players who never went over and played in the mainland. Spent his entire time in Tasmania with North Launceston and North Hobart. Also in Peter Darley, who was a South Australian ruckman in the 60s for, it says the Panthers, that would be South Adelaide, winning 7 club champion awards. So that's effectively best and fairest, featured in the 1964 Premiership side. And the 60s was in South Australia was dominated by Port Adelaide in the same way it was dominated by Melbourne and Victoria. So that would have been a hard Premiership to win. Sure. So Ken Farmer, now a legend, Nick Riewoldt, Aaron Phillips, George Owens, Luke Hodge, Peter Darley, John Leedman, Daisy Pearce, Gary Lyon are this year's Hall of Fame inductees, and I just need to take a sip of water.
Well, whilst you do that, there's some very good names, and they all should be heavily recognised. They've all done great for the game, whether it's playing, commentating, or all the above. It's been fantastic.
All I'm trying to do is scroll down here on this website, and now it's opened up my YouTube channel. I don't want that.
Oh, self-promotion time.
Well, I have it bookmarked here at the top, and for some reason it's opened. We don't need that. We can close a few more things now. promoting someone else in this
Yes.
week's history lesson. This was easy once I saw this. Right. This is this week's history lesson. Reed Bartlett is the son of Kevin. He is a AFL historian. I'm pretty sure I mentioned him on this before. I'm pretty sure I have. This week he found, and there was a whole segment on Channel 9. Channel 9's coverage of the second half of the 1964 VFL Grand Final. This is important because it's pretty much the only footage we have of this game. All the previous or different channels back in the days in the 60s would record, have their own version with their own commentators and cameras and that sort of thing. But there was a fire that ripped through most of the archives back in the day. But Reed Bartlett, with the help of Tony Jones, I think was pretty important in this, and there was a whole Channel 9 segment, forged through the Channel 9 archives and was able to find the second half TV coverage.
Only the second half?
Just the second half.
Wow.
But it's better than what we had before, which was
sure.
only a few newsreels of a few specific moments from the last quarter.
That's fantastic.
And a couple of radio commentaries as well. And you think poor Demon Sporters, before that 2021 premiership, they did not have a single game where they could sit through seeing their side win a premiership. Because they obviously had that 57 years, and there was really no television before this really point in time. So this is a very good find on behalf of Bartlett and all the people at Channel 9, and is this week's history lesson. I have not sat down and watched it just yet as I planned to. It was a close game. There was a famous moment where, what's his name? Gablich, I think it is, Collingwood player, took a mark and took, I think it was 3 bounces. There was a sort of discrepancy. Was it 3 or 4? And this one shows it was just the 3 bounces along the near side wing, kicking a goal to the punt road end, which put Collingwood in front. But Melbourne were able to rebound. They were heavy favourites. This is Norm Smith era. This was his last premiership. So getting the job done there. Melbourne in the 1964 VFL Grand Final is this week's history lesson. Well done, Reed Bartlett, for finding that. His channel and social media is great stuff. If people are interested in football history, you should go check it out because his archive is pretty much the best there is out there. Right, let's go to who can and can't win the flag. I don't think I'm really changing anything from last week. Giants disappointed me, but I'm not ready to put it next to them just yet. Dogs, again, disappointing, not ready just yet. I'm still umming about putting one off Freo, but they didn't play this week, so I need to see them back. What about you, Josh? What are you thinking?
Do you reckon I'm going to add any more or not? We mentioned Port Adelaide last week and how you were fuming that I didn't add them, and despite the win, they're going to be added. So I don't think they'll be winning the flag this year, even though they had a 16-point victory.
Do you want me to do that, or
go ahead?
All right,
please. So that's really the only one I'm saying. I think Crows are still a chance. Lions, Carlton. No, you just never know. I'm kidding. I'm just delusional. I really am. But for my own sake, I'm going to leave them up there. Collingwood,
might as well. I can
imagine
if you were here every week, even during their terrible performances, you would have said, "Nope, I'm staying."
I just can't do that. I can't. But literally, Port's the only one that I'm seeing at the moment.
People who are watching this on YouTube would have seen me shut the computer and go back up again, and that's because I needed to do that because my keyboard stopped working, so I needed to sleep the computer, then put it back on, and now I need to go into this Canva here.
I can do it if you want.
All right, you can do it if you want. That'll be easier for me because this computer is not helping me at all today or in recent times. I think I need to spend more time in front of it, not on Wednesdays. Thank you very much, Josh. So that's where we are.
Abolished.
Port is now on there. We put the other ones to hidden, so we don't need to worry about them. Heavyweight Championship. We're flying through this at a good rate of knots, Josh. Heavyweight Championship is still with Fremantle because they didn't play. They decided to put their feet up. And then, after having the week off, they went real bold and scheduled North Melbourne.
Who would have thought, hey?
So that'll be happening. Coming up, that one's going to be at Optus Stadium, according to this. So is that not in Bunbury? That one must be in Optus Stadium.
Yep.
Well, it's an evening game, so that sort of makes sense. So we'll see maybe North Melbourne, if they could, from $5.30 upset Fremantle, they might be our new heavyweight champions. But we will see what happens there. Big calls time. Last week, we put out 2 very strong big calls.
We did.
And both were, one was a bit more likely to happen than the other based on 4, but they both went up. We already mentioned
bang, bang.
Walshy with his 32 disposals, and of course,
it was fantastic.
You know it. Thanks so much to the Lions for missing all those chances. Because, mind you, they could have won this game by 3 or 4 goals, but they've lost by 5. But that doesn't matter because I just had the margin 10 or less. It could have been a draw, it could have been an Adelaide win up to 10, or a Brisbane win up by 10. As long as it was 10 or less, it's a tick. So that's good. I might be up to 5 there and haven't even moved.
You nailed that.
Yeah, but that was
10 or less either side. That's pretty impressive. Very, very impressive.
Well, I knew it was going to be a close game. I like these two sides. I thought it was a good Friday night match. I think it's a good advertisement for having a few more primetime matches involving non-Victorian teams. Who would have thought that sometimes they may be able to produce some good football? So that's what happened in round 13. In round 14, once again... well, we've gone close to home this week. You've gone George Hewitt. I was trying to work out who it could be.
Cripps, Walsh,
I was thinking he was a bit further down on my list, to be fair. But you've also gone for 30 plus.
I have. Yeah, I've just gone the same sort of story. He's been fantastic recently. West Coast give up the second most disposals to inside midfielders, which is going to be very important for him. They're fantastic around the ball, so I'm saying him get it, and then your man Cameron. Well, God, he's just a game winner.
Jeremy, Jezza, the Dart, Cameron, 4+ goals, I reckon. I can see that very much. That might not even be that big of a call if it's up against Eston at the MCG for the country game.
I think it's a big call, yeah.
But look, it's a bit less likely to happen.
Well.
It is an away game for the Cats, but that should be a good occasion there, and we'll see if Jezza is able to muster up 4 sausage rolls on the Saturday twilight fixture.
I have to say before we continue, that last quarter you had against the Eagles that previous week, that was incredible.
Yeah, it was something else, wasn't it?
You guys are being tested. I mean, not like insanely tested, but, they were just hovering around and he's like, nah, I'm trying to win it for us. And it was unbelievable. He is a literal game winner. The Dart for a reason, hey?
Absolutely. This thing is so bad. I can't use touchscreen, but I'm so tempted. I like using touchscreen on these sort of things. Right. Round 14 is this week, Josh. We have 7 matches. Yes, indeed. The buys, by the way, we might as well get them to the start. No Collingwood, so Evil is put back just for 1 week. Gold Coast, Sydney, and Richmond will not be playing. Right, let's start Thursday night. Woodsy's Saints will take on the Bulldogs. Bulldogs favourites here at Marvel Stadium, but you never know. Can Ross the Boss get his team up and about? We will see what happens there on Thursday night. Well,
Saints have had some interesting wins, interesting home wins. So they won against Fremantle. That was an upset for sure. I think we had another one relatively soon, but I could see this actually going either way. If Saints can just bring out their form that they know they can achieve, the Philippou, the Caminiti, the guys in the forward line who can really step up, I think they can win. But I do think the Doggies will be too strong in this one. I'll go them by around 20 points.
This game intrigues me. Friday night, Hawthorn Adelaide. But that isn't even the most intriguing bit. That fascinates me. What intrigues me is the fact it's in Launceston.
You're going to say that.
Why did nobody mention this when the fixture release came out as sort of a big thing? Like we talked about the double games at Marvel Stadium during Sir Doug Nicholls' Indigenous round and a couple of other things. Why did nobody mention that Launceston's getting a Friday night? Right, this is going to be a great advertisement for that roof they have to build over Macquarie Point because it's going to be blowing in all directions. Right, your team could be down by 7 points at 3/4 time, 7 goals, 3/4 time, and still be favourite if with that Tasmanian wind. Hawthorn are the slight favourites going into this one. Could easily see this one going, again, a similar 10 points either way, that sort of thing. This one is right up there. Coin toss odds quite literally here.
Yep.
On Saturday afternoon at 1:20 at the Gabba. I don't think they're that big outsiders as the bookies are making them out to be, but also, bookies are there to balance the book and make money. So Brisbane will host GWS at 1:20 at the Gabba. Then Jeremy Cameron will kick 4+ goals against the Bombers and a Cats win over Essendon. That one's at 4:15 at the MCG. Then at 7:35, North Melbourne hosts Fremantle in Perth on Saturday night, prime time. That's those sort of words there in that order.
Prime time.
Quite expected. Prime time. North Melbourne host a West Australian team in Perth. It's all weird.
It is a bit weird.
Then on Sunday, Port Adelaide will take on Fremantle.
This could be a good one.
This one, again, seems like another close one. And, with the way both teams are tracking at the moment, could be close. I'm probably leaning. I know they're the slight outside the bookies, but I might lean slightly towards Melbourne on that particular one. Just off the back of their very strong performance in defeat last week.
I think Port will be too strong at home personally, but we'll find out.
I'll give that one a bit more thought. And then to conclude the round,
the graveyard shift 6-10 over at the West.
I'll give the AFL credit. They have been able to stretch these ones out and not overlap.
That's a good point.
So at 6-10, West Coast will play Carlton 11th versus 18th. If you're still awake by that particular point, you can enjoy this particular contest. I assume you won't be at the match, Josh. Or
No.
will you be, who knows? You might be able to find a way to get to Perth. Surely.
I won't make the mistake and go up to Brisbane and see us get bashed 60-0 in the first quarter and a half, whatever it was. No, I'm not doing that. But hopefully,
it's more than a quarter and a half.
It actually was, yeah. So hopefully this can be a nice, easy win. But I do give the Eagles some sort of a chance to give us a shake-up, but we should win, hopefully, easy in the end.
Indeed.
Give us a chance.
Before we wrap up the show, I thought it might be a good idea just to have a look at the ladder, and mainly because I haven't really had a bit of a look at it. Collingwood are sitting on top at the moment with 44 premiership points, 134%. Brisbane is second, a good game and a half behind. They're going to get a game ahead this week as Collingwood have the bye. Geelong is sitting in the top 4 is really the only reason why I'm bringing this up. I just want to make sure everyone is aware that the Great Geelong Cats are in the top 4, and I'm looking this on liveladders.com, and it does. They do have a very, very strong record of projection and tipping there with their particular model, and it does have Geelong sitting in second place at the end of the home away season with 68 points and 132%, just behind Collingwood, who's their projected minor premiers at the minute. That looks very intriguing.
I'll just put up a graphic for the actual ladder on the screen in a minute, but you keep going.
Gold Coast is currently sitting 5th. They've got a bye this week and still have that game to play against Essendon, which will have to happen at some point. Hawthorn are 6th. GWS 7th. Fremantle 8th. They're a game ahead of the Bulldogs, who's just on the outside looking in at the moment in 9th position. Then it's Essendon 10th. Carlton 11th. 2 games and a bit of percentage away from Fremantle there. St Kilda, Sydney. Carlton lead a list of 5 teams all on 20 points.
There you go.
St Kilda, Sydney, Melbourne and Port. North Melbourne 16th, Richmond 17th, and West Coast bringing up the rear in 18th position. Do we have a ladder on the next slide I can go to, Josh?
It's a bit half wonky, but it's all right.
There we go. Well, that'll do.
It's decent enough.
That's how things look at this particular stage in the AFL season. 12 and 13 games have been played, and that's how it looks like. And I'll just go through. How does this sound for finals? Let's see. Qualifying finals, according to this projection on liveladders.com, Collingwood first will take on the team that is projected 4th, which is Brisbane. Second, Geelong. Third, Adelaide. I'd be happy if the Cats were to get that. I just don't want to see us play a team that's projected to a Victorian team or a team on the rise. Even though, to be fair, Adelaide is on the rise. On the rise in terms of a really strong back half of the year that a Carlton might have because of easy matches. 5th, Gold Coast. Gold Coast getting into the finals on this projection of 5th. They will play the team that's 8th, which is currently saying Fremantle. Hawthorn is 6th on this projection, and they'll play the Dogs 7th. So liveladders.com has the Giants missing by a full match, 48 points to the 52. Where does it have Carlton? It's currently projecting Carlton 10th. I'm just happy with them.
Sounds
just to
right.
see a Carlton projection of them not in the 8th. That would be good. Only on 44 points there, which would probably not be enough. You need 12 wins.
Yeah.
And
13 with
13
good percentage.
I think 13 guaranteed. Yeah. And 12 and good percentage probably. 12 alone might even be enough. Right, unless there's anything else to mention, Josh, I think that's it.
Pretty much it.
Slightly shorter edition to the last week, but good show nevertheless. Like and subscribe to Extra Time, of course, if you haven't done so already, and have a listen to previous editions of the show to see just how wrong we were in our assumptions of the football season. Mark Woods, if you are listening to this, we hope to have you back in this position very soon, potentially as soon as next week. We'll have a look on that. Enjoy the football this particular week. Best of luck to your team, and hopefully they will go well this week. We'll have hopefully a better round of football than some of the matches we had in the middle there last week. Hopefully they're a bit closer to that, for example, closer to Collingwood Melbourne than to North Melbourne,
Bunbury.
West Coast in Bunbury. Sorry to the good folks there. You were really let down by the AFL on that particular occasion. But that's all we've got. Thank you very much for listening. Again, like to subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure to check out the Nine Dial podcast as well, which me and Josh do, which will be published just before this one is. And we'll see you in the next one.